Hey guys, Dave from Nerdarchy, 4 nerds, by nerds hanging out. This group of nerds.
Ryan.
Ted.
Nathan and Mark.
We have another GM911, this time from Kenny from Belgium. And so essentially what Kenny's got going on, he did his session 0, and he wanted to encourage his players to give him backstory, so he's giving them an additional background feature.
Okay.
So far, not a problem. One of them is as simple as you have lore about vampires because you're a vampire hunter. So he's just going to give them a printout of what's in the monster manual minus stats, and like some wooden stakes. Another one, can
you redeem them for regular steaks to eat?
That would be a good question. Another feature was, hey, can I give this character a limited form of Find Familiar that only works with his pet rat that he can cast? So I'm like, not a big deal.
Get a rat.
The third one, now this is where it gets a little wonky, and I think this one is too much. He has a reluctant soldier that conned his way into the army with the intention of conning his way out, who is only halfway successful. And he wants to give this character who's planning on becoming an Eldritch Knight access to a cantrip from the Elemental Evil Companion. And he was going to use the Magic Stone spell and reskin it to use cards and do piercing damage instead of bludgeoning damage.
Yeah, but basically...
he actually said as much, which would not be a problem, except for he doesn't actually have access
to cantrips yet.
So that's the only one I would say is kind of a no-go.
First level? Oh, everyone's
first level.
First level.
Human?
He is a human.
You could take the feat.
Take magic
initiative. That would be a way to get magic initiative.
Yeah, he could absolutely solve this by taking magic initiative.
Yeah, I would think something else.
Because giving him proficiency, like let him have his proficiency bonus for the attacks with the cards or whatever. Well, no, I guess that's a matter of the spell anyway, so it doesn't even
matter. It's being handled by the spell Magic Stone. Like I don't even know what it is. It's actually it's not relevant because if he's giving him that for just as an extra thing, a cantrip is too much.
Well, he's giving him a cantrip where he gave the other player
a first level
spell. So.
Yeah, it's Find Familiar.
Well, no. Find Familiar that you have on an actual rat that can die is not the same.
It's been watered down. It's not the same as Find Familiar from the book.
Right. Yeah. So he's limited to that specific rat. So that definitely weakens it because it's not like, oh, I'll just go get a new rat.
Yeah, and there's a money cost to it. I mean, well, that's if you get a new familiar, I guess.
Right.
But
yeah,
I guess it depends. Like, I guess he has no intention of ever killing this rat. What happens to this rat if it dies?
The player's gonna be very
yeah. What's going to happen to this player?
But I find that is it's such a minor thing that probably isn't going to come up that much. And again, like
it's like they took the urchin background basically. Like
yeah. So I'm like, that's not so bad. I feel like a cantrip that's an attack spell is going to come up far more often.
Sounds like he wants. I would figure like his primary attack might be this thing.
Yeah, it's a good possibility. It could be.
When you throw in these cards. That is a good point, though, about it being a first level spell. It's just because it's not the same as I mean, how many times a day can he do it? Is it all the time?
Well, yeah, that's it. Like, if he can only cast it even once a day, and it's also a limited form of a first level spell. Basically, it's essentially he has the ritual. He has access to one ritual.
So what about this? What if the guy who gets Magic Stone, it's a cantrip that he can do once per short or long rest until he's got
the actual levels,
the Eldritch Knight level to be able to have full access to cantrips.
Or what if you upped what the Vampire Hunter gets? I think this was all kind of like...
Yeah, well, I mean, that's one solution is to give the more. If you're going along the lines with the background features, like they're really not supposed to give much of a tangible benefit to the characters. It should be more of an RP thing, and that's kind of why I'm okay with the rat. Like, how much are you going to do with the rat? And depending on,
you'd be surprised.
And depending on how limited he makes it, like maybe he can mildly communicate with it, but maybe he can't see through its eyes or something like that. He has like the familiar bond without all the features.
Right.
I think the shorter the long rest is a nice sort of. So it's like it comes up basically once per encounter, or every other in a way. So that might be a way around.
But not being, oh, this is going to be my primary form of attack.
Yeah, I mean, then when third level rolls around, he gets a cantrip, right? Mm-hmm. So that can just be. It is now having access. I mean, Magic Stone isn't on his list, right? For Eldritch Knight, so it's actually.
I'm not positive on that.
I thought it was just cleric stuff.
It might be. It could be cleric or druid.
All right. Well, it's a big. I think it's a bigger deal if he's actually getting a cantrip out of class when he's not even has access to a cantrip in the first place yet. So.
It's funny too, because he's got these 3 features and they run the gambit to one being a no in my mind to being it's not really a big deal, especially at first level. How much use is that vampire knowledge going to be to you?
Right.
You just enough to know you're screwed. You don't comes into play.
How to always run away when you think somebody's a vampire.
Yeah, pretty much.
The familiar one is really in the middle. It's it's a first level spell. He's got access to 1 ritual. And depending on how how he's going to parse that down.
Now, do you have any suggestions for some alternative? I don't know what information he has in regards to the character that would be getting the Magic Stone.
So yeah, that's just it. What do you give him?
Well, so isn't Magic Stone too? It has in past editions, it used to work more effectively against undead, right? Mm-hmm. So that's mapping another feature on it. Now, what you could do is actually say it's a limited use of Magic Missile, which is level dependent because that's only a D4, and it's not more effective against undead. Yeah. So it's kind of oh, you upped it to a first level spell, but really it's not super effective.
It's
right?
just a magic dagger, pretty much, you're throwing around.
Yeah. I mean, it's a D4 plus 1. I mean,
or give him proficiency with cards. Yeah. he can use cards as a weapon at no point of damage.
Yeah. Well, then he can add his dex, or it's a piercing finesse weapon.
Persuade them to take the wizard magic initiate, and put putting Magic Stone on his list.
Well, that would be a non-wizard, but
that's my point. By the feature, the benefit is saying you can have that spell on your list that isn't normally there.
Yeah, because let's face it, the feat human is way better than the +1 everything human.
Well, we don't know which one he's using, but if he's using,
that's true. Benefit. You know what? The benefit of having a limited expanded spell list for this one instance, that's fair.
So I would go with that, as the special feature because, let's face it, special features are things that should do something that don't really do anything.
Right.
It's kind of the idea. If anything, a special feature is there to create more of a role-playing situation.
Right. Yeah, special features, if we're talking about in terms, congratulations, you know the streets so well you can avoid 45 minutes worth of traffic.
Exactly.
Go have a bagel and a coffee with that extra 45 minutes.
I think the most useful feature of all of them is probably the Outlander one, where you can feed you and basically your party while you're traveling through the wilderness, and it's it's not you're spending a whole lot of game time or resources on that anyway, unless you're playing Dark Sun or something.
Then everybody's an Outlander.
So he had a second question as well for Kenny from Belgium. He wanted to know, how should you handle travel? And how should it influence the game, and as far as mechanically and encounters.
Well,
and he didn't want to do it while you travel down the road for 3 days and arrive.
So he doesn't want to fast time it, which is usually the way I do it. Is I fast time travel because it's
and then highlight the interesting things that happen.
Yeah.
Well, it really depends upon the kind of game you're running, the location you're traveling through, and you as the DM, what types of peril you want to throw at them.
And do they want to have just a little bit of peril?
As a player, I don't want to do 3 days of, okay, you travel, you rest, you make perception checks, nothing happens, repeat. That gets tedious. I would much rather say, okay, you travel for 3 days, the second night, tensions are on edge and you have a hard time getting back to sleep because, Fred over here thought he heard something, woke everybody up, and you looked around, you couldn't find anything, everybody made it through, but you felt you're being watched.
There's a couple things. You can do a narrative of certain things just to kind of highlight stuff that's actually happening. Ted has recently done, you guys each have some player agency of telling me one thing that happened during the travel. And you can do, and if you want mechanics involved, like if it's an instance where they don't know where they're going, or they he even uses like in an airship and they crash land it. Like in that case, yeah, you can use like the wilderness skill and survival and stuff like that in order to not get lost, to head in the right direction. If you want to put them in an area where resources are scarce, make checks for hunting and stuff like that. You can start wearing on them with attrition through hunger and thirst, and if there's things that come up where they have to force march, there's definitely different things like that. Exhaustion. If you want to get mechanically involved, those are the areas you're going to want to do it, but you're going to want interesting narration around that as well. Maybe like in the crash, somehow causes all the stores to be spoiled or get lost. They sink in quicksand or something.
Yeah. Catch on fire.
Yeah,
spontaneously combust.
I mean, if you're having like 2 to 3 encounters every day or whatever, like how dangerous is your wilderness? Like around, like you must be in the most like deplorable area if you're constantly having fights all the time. So like sometimes it should just be like a tree with like initials carved on it or whatever, and like that should be the interesting feature. Or like maybe you do find like a long forgotten tomb that was like buried over, but it's literally just a burial site. Or there could be a white in there if you want it, But by and large, if there's like just encounters left and right, then you lived in like the most hostile territory that you could possibly imagine.
The players would know that it is extremely dangerous to go anywhere.
Yeah.
Oh my God! Why do I want to be an adventurer?
So I would say, if you need to fast forward it to get to where you're going, like you don't want to do anything with it, then just skip it. Because I mean, you're not interested in doing it. The players are going to feel that. But I would say, adventuring should kind of feel dangerous. Going out of, the boundaries of tamed land should feel kind of dangerous. So even if they have to skirt a few encounters that look really, really deadly, like maybe there's a pack of gnolls, or there's 3 ogres having a conversation in the woods.
Or Tarrasque breeding.
Yeah, or Tarrasque. You hear the sound, the earthquake-shattering sound of Tarrasque breeding. That stuff you just want to know. You want to avoid because you just aren't going to be able to handle it. Or
emotionally, Tarrasque breeding emotionally.
Yeah,
you see that you can't unsee it.
You can't unsee it.
Yeah.
So that's what I would go for is maybe counters to be avoided, and if they want to engage in them, well, it's their funeral. But no, obviously I don't want to kill them off. But I would definitely have at least one planned encounter, even if it's just RP, like them meeting somebody on the road,
merchants or something,
just to make it something that's happening. So it's not just 3 days of travel. Blah blah blah. Done.
Role playing with sandworms.
Yeah, sandworms.
I hate them.
Training them to ride them, taming them.
Crate dragons.
Yeah, so that's my input on it. It doesn't always have to be fighting. It can be somebody that you thought they might just pass on the road and wave to, but instead they have a conversation with.
They're pilgrims on a like a holy village or holy voyage, and like maybe they try to convert you, proselytize you, and stuff.
Yeah, or there's some teaser about this person's off searching for something, but the players have something else to do. Maybe they'll find that guy sometime later. He'll come into town and say, "Hey, I found it," but it's got like skeletons walking around and stuff. I need some help.
Or they're trying to spread the good word of Thulsa Doom.
Yeah,
and accepting that.
But the idea is you're creating relationships and making the world bigger than just point A to point B.
It's the villain organization with Conan.
Without,
I think we all know that.
Without doing real time night watch.
Yeah.
So, what do you want to talk about? We got about 2 hours before the next shift. Yeah. So without doing real time night watch on the campfire,
Yeah, I prefer the fast track with narration. Maybe spiced up with an encounter or two.
Yeah. All right, so I think that's everything. So if you guys have anything else to point out for that double header GM901, feel free to put it in the comments below. Don't forget to like, comment, or subscribe.
You can check us out on Facebook.
You can also check out the articles over at nerdarchy.com.
And because I'm thinking you're missing it right now, there's the newsletter that you can sign up for in the description below.
So until next time,
stay nerdy.